Thank you for zooming in to tonight's presentation through the East Hampton Library. Tonight's presentation is benefits of volunteering that will inspire you. And we have from Willing Hearts Helping Hands, Parker Jewish Institute, we have Joanne Caramancio, who will be here to speak about different opportunities that are available in the area of volunteering. And without further ado, I'll turn over tonight's lecture to Joanne.
Okay, so, all right. Okay, so my name is Joanne Caramanico. I am from the Willing Hearts Helpful Hands. It's an Alzheimer's caregiver grant program that is initiated out of Parker Institute, as you heard, in New Hyde Park. We offer services to caregivers who are caring for loved ones at home with any form of memory loss, dementia, or Alzheimer's. And we do community awareness programming. This presentation itself is part of that community awareness piece of our grant. So, and obviously our topic is the benefits of volunteering. It's an overview of what the benefits actually are for you as an individual. And, we happen to have a volunteer piece to our grant. So we're obviously going to speak about that, but, we would encourage people to volunteer in whatever areas that they're interested in. We'd love to have people volunteer with us, but that would be up to you guys. Um, so, um, so we can move to the next slide. And we'll just get right into some of the main reasons why you would volunteer. Basically, because it makes a difference, right? That volunteering, if you have done it in the past or have never, but if you have, you know yourselves that it's a very rewarding activity. I have always loved to do that. It's almost more fun than working sometimes. Just being able to be somewhere and just be present and be there to do what needs to be done. And it's rewarding to make a difference in people's lives and helping things to move forward, programs or whatever you might be doing, engaging with people. It's very rewarding. So as far as volunteering goes, it is a community building type activity, obviously. When you're part of something in a larger group, you become part of that community and you're there to support all that happens. So it builds community for you, and it helps to build the community within the organization that you are volunteering in. So it ends things such as loneliness. A lot of times people have time on their hands, especially if you're retired or planning on going into retirement. I'm of an age where I have friends who are probably 10 to 15, maybe 20 years older than me. People who have entered their retirement or are beginning to enter retirement. It's like, well, what do I do now? That was all I knew how to do. I have nothing to offer. Many times people might not believe they have something to offer. And moving into that stage of life or retirement or it can feel like at times there's a potential for it to be a very lonely time. how to deal with that loneliness would be to look for opportunities to give back in your community. Um, and if you look at some of these statistics here, on loneliness and social isolation, that they're two of the most serious epidemics in the world today. And our society is kind of encouraging a lot more of the isolated activity with the computers and such. Um, and we can sometimes lose track of these other types of opportunities to really stay connected in a human one-on-one way with other people. And there's nothing that replaces it. So it's an opportunity to be social. So if you look at some of the writings here as far as social interaction, it can improve your mental and physical health. And these are things that are studied, when they look at people who volunteer versus people who do not, people, let's say, maybe who are retired, and just people that are working who might want to still give back in other ways. It increases your social circle and your connections with others. And you build bonds. You're in a community of people moving toward a particular cause, trying to, I often had volunteered in different, for myself, different, like retreat houses or church organizations. I happen to like that kind of opportunity. So I've made many friends actually going to volunteer and being in those communities. You build bonds. You find, especially if you're thinking, I go to retirement, but if you're of an older age, sometimes people's friends are not always as accessible. They move away. You wonder, how would I meet people? Well, if you go and volunteer and engage in something that you would be interested in, you could meet lots of people that would be interested in a similar thing and possibly make some friends and longer term relationships with people. And volunteering develops emotional stability. One of the things that we can, be susceptible to if we have too much time on our hands, and we're too idle or we're not engaging with others is, can affect our mood, and certain things, what do I have to offer, our self-esteem, and it can, if we're not engaged in some productive or helpful, life-giving activity, it can sort of trigger some of the not such good things that can happen to us, ways that we think that may not be helpful. But yet, when you're out there engaged with others, you're going to have a lot less time to sit around and think about how sad you might be. Doesn't mean you need not take care of those things, but engaging with other people is a real positive thing for your mental health. It says here, when people who are depressed volunteer, they feel more connected to other people and they have an increased sense of purpose. It gives you that purpose, that connection, that engagement. And it really can translate into decreasing the symptoms that are a byproduct of that loneliness that some of us could be susceptible to. So here you're talking about teens and young adults. When you're of that age, you're trying to find out what you're interested in. You might be involved in one particular area, but as a teen or a young adult, if you're looking to discover some different things, it's great to take some time to volunteer. different organizations, different types of activities, and you never know what you might find that's interesting. I know for myself, as an example, when I was younger, once I started to uh, do activities and engage with people with music, I started to realize, wow, I wanted to be a performer, which I do and I enjoy. But once I started to engage that music with other people, I knew that that was really the pathway and the avenue. But it happened because I was volunteering, I was engaging, making music with other people. Um, so, as a young person, it can help your self esteem and confidence and your self worth, just as it can for older people. Um, and it can help with social anxiety, again, and depression and different kinds of disorders that are at this point in society. We're seeing a lot of increase in that. So it's a great way to help to mediate some of those symptoms. And it overall helps with your overall wellness, it reducing stress, improving your well-being, because you're expending your energy in a positive, helpful way, um, can lead you to be happier and healthier. Um, and there have been studies on this as well, promoting longevity. Um, Long-term volunteers having, statistically longer lives, less disease, better overall health. Um, and that statistic of people who volunteer over 100 hours a year are some of the healthiest people in the U.S. You talk to volunteers in different organizations. You know, it, it's a joy. And if it's not, then maybe it's not the best place for you to be as a volunteer. You have to find the right fit for you. There's even talk that it can reduce the effects of, let's say, memory loss or Alzheimer's. I mean, I have worked in the field of mental health my whole career. Um, and I worked in nursing homes in different places. Even if you have a mild issue or some kind of memory issue, you can still um, volunteer in certain circumstances. Again, they have to be the right circumstances, places where you can engage, and in the community, you can get help with finding those kind of niches. There's never a difficulty with, if you're, let's say, going to visit someone and sit and talk and engage. We can all do that. So we see that studies in the Journal of Gerontology indicates that social service improves elasticity in the brain. Again, it's promoting engagement, it's promoting your involvement with other people, and the most important thing would be to find the right niche. And it is very possible to do that. So, again, leading to, as we're talking about aging, graceful aging. How do you want to age in your life? To age gracefully. Um, as I'm aging, I start to realize that, like, how would I want to be if I'm able to live older, 70, 80? Well, I personally would like to be able to give back and engage with people as long as I possibly can, because it really, for me, um, promotes well-being, and really is what life is about, us engaging with other people. Um, so you have opportunities as you age, you have something productive to do. You're going to be somewhere for 2 days a week, 3 days a week, and spend some time giving back in the community in some organization that you are passionate about. You're physically moving, your mind is working, um, and you're collaborating with other people. So studies that indicate that senior volunteers experience the most physical benefit from their service, possibly because being active and engaged leads to more happiness. So, so when we volunteer, we're getting up, we're active. Again, just continuing to reinforce those principles of what promotes well-being, being engaged with others, and social interaction. So for younger people of a younger age, um, you know, many people will do it for, they want their resume to be built up. Um, so you find opportunities where you can engage with other people. And as a younger person, you develop your skills that way. You develop awareness of others and how to engage and work collaboratively with other people. Um, and as a high school student, you know, a young person, it builds your reservoir of activities on your resume, and all organizations like to see when people are giving back to the community and engaged with the community. So it's a very beneficial thing for young people, um, in many respects. And to reinforce too that, I know this generation they call millennials, and um, many of them are very active in charitable causes and volunteering, even with full-time positions. Um, being community minded, um, and putting all of that material on a resume to help promote yourself, to show that you're a well-rounded individual. Um, Again, volunteering helps you to be part of a community. You become, as you know, you can, if we work in jobs and things, you become a little family, and you are giving back to that organization. So, um, can really have a positive effect. And again, as you age, um, there are, research studies about the benefits of volunteering. People who volunteer spend 38% fewer nights in the hospital than non-volunteers. When we have too much time on our hands, the things that we have challenges with can become a lot bigger than if we're putting our focus on something productive and engaging with other people. Again, it's not to not get help if you need help in certain areas of mental health, but it's a very positive way to support your mental well-being and to help other people, and to um, try to mediate some of that negative stuff that we can go through as we age and start to feel that loneliness. Um, and it's continuing your life story. Like, well, what's next? What do I do now? Well, I have volunteered in this organization. I have many friends who volunteered in so many. Somebody became an EMT, a volunteer EMT. Um, Another friend who worked in a soup kitchen, all the things that maybe sometimes are harder to do if you're working full time. Um, so you make new memories and you create new connections. So here we go with, you know, what is your volunteer threshold? Okay, so now we're going to talk about like what kind of time you want to give. Um, you know, the benefits really are, giving at least 1 or 2 hours a week. But it's really very individual. There are opportunities where you could do one-off volunteering, go and help for, or just for a short period of time, maybe for they have certain fundraising activities. I used to do that. It was like a short sprint of volunteering, and it worked well for working full time. I could give that time for a month or two to prep for a fundraiser. You have to decide and kind of assess what your volunteer threshold is. And being aware too that it is a win-win situation. Um, when you're volunteering, we think it's just for us, but you're giving back to your community. You're benefiting. All of the people that you're engaged with are benefiting so much by your presence. So when we think, what do I have to give? We have a lot to give. Again, how much do I need to volunteer? It's really up to you. And what time of day works for you. What type of volunteering you might be interested in. There are organizations will ask for different levels of commitment. Like, for example, our organization is really working really individually with people with an early to mid stage Alzheimer's or memory loss. And they're perfectly able, many of them, to be able to be engaged in conversation, simple human activity, maybe a game or music. We ask our volunteers for about 4 hours a week. And you work that schedule out with the people that you would be matched up with. So that's us, for example. But maybe, I know my friend worked in a soup kitchen. She went once a week for one morning a week. So it was a couple of hours to really get that whole morning's lunch ready for the participants. So that was what she did once a week in that organization. So based on what you'd like to do and maybe how many different opportunities you might want, maybe you want to do one thing and maybe another day you'd go somewhere else, do something different. So like, again, we'll talk a little about how much do I need to volunteer with our organization. For example, if you volunteer to be a companion, someone to just a friendly visitor, um, it's really it's a relationship. So it's going to take time to build the trust with the person. Um, and that does require commitment. If you volunteer once a month, it's going to be a little harder. So it would, a few hours a week, that's how you build friendships. Even you spend time with the individual, and then the person gets to know you, you get to know them. And as time goes on, it becomes much more, um, you know, easier. Like in the beginning, it might be a little bit more challenging. You're getting to know each other, what kind of activities you can engage in, talk about. But that is a commitment. So it will take um, more steady hours, I would say, a couple of hours a week in order to sustain those relationships. Any relationship takes that time. So, and of course, when you say yes to something, even if you go through a whole process to be involved in it, um, and you really think it's the right thing, yeah, maybe it is a little awkward or uncomfortable in the beginning. You give it a chance, and you might settle in, or you might start to feel like, well, I don't know that this really fits me. But it is important to give something a chance. um, talking to someone. Um, there's many organizations have volunteer coordinators. We do in our organization. Um, and you would be free to call us, and see, let's say you wanted to volunteer. Well, would this be the right fit? Well, maybe, maybe not. Um, Speak about what your background is, what your interest is, and we can help you sort of troubleshoot what would be good, and maybe our organization would be a good fit. Well, an example, I'll go back because this is my specialty at the moment. The work that we do working with people who are caring for loved ones at home with the memory loss and dementia. Um, it really requires just being a kind person who's a good listener with good interpersonal skills. There are many things working with people in this situation. It takes some patience, and, you know, just being a good listener and a person who can be present to another, being able to read some social cues and what you're going to need to, well, maybe this activity is not working. We'll try another one. Maybe they don't like this, even though it might be something they liked, and you try it. It's really kind of just being a good at interpersonal skills, and kind of, and we can learn those, but if this is a good fit for you, it would be something that would be sort of one of your strengths, I guess. So other volunteer opportunities would require certain special qualifications. Let's say if you would volunteer in an office and you had certain background, a lot of times you see a lot of volunteer opportunities now for social media volunteering, things of that nature. Those are special skills. And so that may or may not be in your wheelhouse. Kind of good to get a sense of what you think you would like to do, what you think your skills are. And maybe if you're interested in something totally different, well, I wonder if I could volunteer in an organization and do something very different than I've done before. You very well might be able to. Okay, and training. Wherever you go, if you're a volunteer and they're not mentoring you, training you, giving you guidance, may not be the best place for you, because you need the background. All of our volunteers, I'll use our organization as an example. All of our volunteers will receive training. And what the training consists of is you would watch different types of educational things about dementia, Alzheimer's, and the volunteer coordinators will engage with you about it. See where your understanding is and how to help you understand a little more if you have any questions. So you are trained and quite well. And if you want to learn more, we certainly could also help you with that. Age. I think 14, they say, is the age for volunteering. Most organizations do have like a minimum age. I think if you have working papers, I think that's about 14 or 15 years old. You can volunteer. And many of them will have age restrictions. Like, again, our organization, we ask people to be 18 and older. Let's see. It's again, the most important thing is that someone is reliable and, consistent in their volunteering. So of course, if you've had any kind of background that needs to be monitored or might be of a concern, again, it would depend on your criminal record if you had a criminal record. There are certain roles that you might not be suited for. And again, it's a kind of a fit kind of a thing. There are certain organizations that just for legal reasons would maybe not be able to take someone with a criminal background. This is something that, again, you would speak to a volunteer coordinator about it, and they would have a lot of information to be able to give you some guidance. Okay, so what would you expect from an organization, let's say from ours or any organization? They should really show appreciation for the volunteers that are part of their community, and really want you to have a good experience in that organization. You should receive formal orientation and training and a very solid background in whatever area that you choose to volunteer in, and a very clear guidelines and stipulations for what you're doing, what's required of you, when and how often that you are to volunteer. And you should have an opportunity to offer what you would like to offer as a volunteer. So there are many, many good reasons to volunteer. And again, we'll kind of recap that research does indicate that volunteering leads to better health, better mental, mind, body, and spirit health. And that's a really good thing. And volunteers are generally happier and more satisfied with their lives, less depression, and reporting better health. Volunteers, again, strengthen their social ties and decrease the isolation that can happen with not being engaged. Helping others gives someone a really good sense of purpose, a sense of purpose. And older volunteers definitely demonstrate better health benefits. And lastly, it says that they're less likely to suffer ill health later in their life, promoting good health. So as we continue, there are some more good reasons. The power of volunteering. I don't think we'll be able, we could try that and see if it would work. I'm not sure. I think we could skip that.
Can't get it to open in the PowerPoint in the PDF mode.
Okay. Okay, so how do you find an opportunity? You could certainly be in touch with us and I can give you our information, but this little list here is a basic overview. We could leave it on the screen for a few moments here if you want to jot any of it down. There are certain websites and places to go. Long Island has a very big, volunteer. There's like a big database. There's a website for volunteering specifically on Long Island. And some of these you have Volunteer Match, Create the Good, the Long Island Volunteer Center, and New York City Service there, the Corporation for National Community Service, the Idealist, and you can also look on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And I also recommend, if there's something in your community, maybe there's a nursing home, maybe there's an assisted living. I didn't even realize this, but like even these other places like the Bristols, these other like uh assisted living type facilities that are kind of all over. They love to have people come in and volunteer. And I imagine you could volunteer in different capacities in places like that. You know, people are in earlier and mid and later stages, and you can engage with people. But it's important to really just be aware of what's in your community. If you want to volunteer close to home, see what's around. Maybe you have a church or a community organization right in your neighborhood you want to volunteer for. So again, for us, the Willing Hearts program is a grant funded program that is initiated out of Parker Institute. So we, as a program, the Willing Hearts, have our own volunteers that will work with our participants out in the community, going to someone's home, spending some time with someone who has this generally early to mid-stage memory loss, and they're able to engage. They're still able to do things, maybe go for a walk. You can read a book, watch some television, listen to music, play a game, things of that nature. So that would be the Willing Hearts piece. And Parker is a very large nursing home in New Hyde Park. There are opportunities for volunteer service there. They have a hospice. And within Parker, within the nursing home, there's also opportunities to, here we go, with the hospice volunteers, the Willing Hearts. Students can intern and do some volunteer work. We've had some students in Parker over the summer times, especially. And as an adult, you could come and do some service in Parker as well. So again, we spoke about nursing home volunteering, wherever, maybe it wouldn't be Parker or could be Parker or another nursing home, to give a few hours a week in a nursing home. So what can I do? Consider people that live in these nursing homes 24/7, going and spending some time with someone or participating in an activity to be engaging with other people. It makes a huge difference. So, and again, we have a hospice program where we do have hospice patients, people that are in-house that might end up on hospice. And we have a volunteer program through the hospice organization. And that also goes out into the community to visit people. So that could be another avenue. I was just reading about someone, it's obviously a special skill, but if you've ever heard of a death doula, and she became a death doula, and all of her work as a death doula was volunteer through a hospice. And at this point, post all of the COVID, there's a lot more opportunities, where, especially in Parker and other places, people are more opening up the doors more to volunteering, bringing people in. So it's a great time to explore this. So what does a hospice volunteer do? You spend time with someone, obviously, who's in this end stage of their life. They may not be in the last moments of their life, but they're in that stage of the last phase. Um, and you are a vital part of that because you're a support along with all of the other hospice staff and family that are part of your circle, part of their circle. Um, so again, I just mentioned the hospice doulas. If you have a special skill, maybe you could volunteer in an area with bereavement or grief, or just be a very friendly visitor, someone to go and you go talk to the patient, be present to the patient, even the family, because they also need support. Um, Being, let's say, a telephone support to someone. Um, they accept student interns. You can also do some other types of administrative volunteering um, as well. So again, for us, again, it's an opportunity to make a difference right in your community. With Willing Hearts Helpful Hands, again, it's an Alzheimer's caregiver grant initiative. Like I say, we ask for like 4 hours a week. Um, and what would happen is we try to match you up with someone right in your local community. If you are willing to travel a little bit, maybe the town over, whatever would work for you. Volunteers are eligible to receive a $50 uh, travel allowance, which is, I think, very nice. $50 a month, let's say, even if you might be in walking distance to the person, or you might be 2 towns away. It's still a little bit of a drive, so we help support that with a little bit of a stipend for the driving. And again, it's a few hours and it's a process that you go through. You would be background screened, a basic background check. And you also um, go through some basic kinds of training and learning about the illness, about what you might encounter. Uh, Many people come to us, they have a knowledge already, but if you have no knowledge at all, um, it can be beneficial. So you learn about what could happen and what's happening with someone, and you're trained, um, and then you can volunteer with us. And we also have people throughout the counties. That's an important thing to mention. Our participants in our program, the grant covers Nassau and Suffolk counties. So wherever you are, you could still, even all the way at the tip of, the east end of Long Island, our organization has been reaching out a lot more into the Suffolk County area, all the way out into the Hamptons. So we do have participants who are signing up with us. Um, so, you know, it's important for you to think what would volunteering mean for you? How would it make a difference in your life? And you see some of the responses here from some people. That your life is enriched by others and you get recharged by that engagement. And it feels good to be a support to other people. It gives you hope that you're making a difference. And you sharing your life, and everybody has something to give. So, that really is kind of the conclusion of our presentation. This is our organization here. If you have any questions, I also, what if I could, I'll put my name and phone number in the chat. If you would like to speak to me directly, I can put you in touch with the right person if you'd like to explore volunteering on any level. It doesn't, whatever would be good for you. If you think you would be interested in volunteering with us, we can just give you guidance. We'd love to talk with you and support your steps towards becoming a volunteer.
I thank you very much, and we look forward to other presentations, and we wish everybody a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much. See you all again.